Picture this. It's 8:17 on a Tuesday morning. You're already having a difficult day. You're driving to work thinking about the bills waiting at home, the conversation you had with your spouse last night, and the one thing you absolutely need to get done today. Then someone cuts you off in traffic. You hit the brakes, your heart jumps. You look at them and immediately feel that familiar wave of anger. And then you spend the next 10 minutes thinking about that person. You imagine what you should have said. You imagine pulling up beside them. You replay the moment again and again. But here's the strange part. That driver has already forgotten you exist. They continued down the road. They're probably listening to music, thinking about their own problems. Meanwhile, they are driving away with your peace, and you gave it to them without them even asking. Now imagine another possibility. The exact same thing happens. The same driver cuts you off, the same disrespect, the same inconvenience. But this time, you take a breath, you look forward, and you say to yourself, I refuse to give someone I don't even know control over the rest of my day. And you keep driving. Same situation, different response, different life. That is the skill we are talking about today, because if you truly master this one thing, people can still disappoint you, criticize you, misunderstand you, and even disrespect you, but they will no longer have easy access to your peace. And that skill is simple to describe. Master your response. But understanding it is one thing, living it is another. And that is where the real transformation begins. There is an old idea that perfectly explains this. Imagine two men walking through the same city. The first man hears someone behind him say something insulting. He immediately turns around. Did you just say that to me? The other person laughs. Now the argument begins. One sentence becomes 5. 5 becomes 20. Voices get louder. The man's entire mood changes. He carries that anger with him for the rest of the day. At dinner, he's still thinking about it. Before bed, he's still replaying it. The next morning, he wakes up angry at someone who probably hasn't thought about the incident once. Now imagine the second man. He hears the same insult. He pauses. He looks at the person. Then he simply continues walking. Why? Not because he is weak, not because he didn't hear it, and not because the insult was acceptable. He simply understood something the first man didn't. You don't have to accept every invitation to conflict. That is one of the most powerful forms of emotional strength. The world will constantly invite you to react. Your job is to decide which invitations deserve a yes. The ancient Stoics were obsessed with this idea. They understood that life would never become completely predictable. People would disappoint you, plans would fail, others would misunderstand you. Some people would be unfair, some would be selfish, some would criticize you without knowing your story. And if your emotional stability depended on everyone behaving correctly, you would never be at peace. So they focused on something much more powerful. What is actually within your control? You cannot control someone's opinion of you. You cannot control what someone says behind your back. You cannot control whether someone appreciates your effort. You cannot control another person's attitude. But you can control what you do next. You can control whether you answer immediately or take a breath. You can control whether you turn criticism into a lesson or an argument. You can control whether you carry someone's negativity for the next 6 hours or leave it where it happened. That distinction can change your entire life. But there's something deeper happening whenever another person makes you angry. Sometimes you're not actually angry because of what they did. You're angry because of what you expected them to do. You expected them to respect you. You expected them to understand you. You expected them to appreciate you. You expected them to keep their promise. And when reality didn't match your expectation, anger appeared. Think about how often you've said, They shouldn't have done that. They should know better. How could they treat me like that? Maybe you're right. Maybe they shouldn't have done it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Being right doesn't automatically make you peaceful. You can be completely justified and still destroy your own peace by obsessing over what happened. And this is where emotional maturity begins. You stop asking, "How dare they?" and start asking, "What is the wisest thing for me to do now?" That one question can save you from countless arguments. Now, let me tell you something that most people don't realize. You can control your anger and still become controlled by other people. How? By constantly needing to explain yourself. Someone misunderstands you, you explain. They still don't understand, you explain again. They criticize you, you defend yourself. They disagree, you try harder. Before you know it, you're spending an hour trying to convince someone who had already decided what they wanted to believe. Stop. You do not need everyone to understand you. You do not need everyone to approve of you. And you certainly don't need everyone to like you. There is a certain freedom that comes when you realize, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it to everyone. That's when people start losing power over you. So what do you actually do the next time someone pushes your buttons? Start with something incredibly simple, the 5-second rule. When you feel that emotional reaction rising, don't respond immediately. Take 5 seconds. Not because 5 seconds magically solves everything, but because anger loves speed. Wisdom needs space. Take a breath, relax your jaw, drop your shoulders, and ask yourself 3 questions. Is this worth my energy? Is my response going to improve the situation? Will I respect myself after I say this? If the answer is no, silence may be your strongest response. And if something genuinely needs to be addressed, address it calmly. There's a huge difference between being calm and being passive. You can say, I don't appreciate being spoken to that way. You can say, we can discuss this, but not while we're yelling. You can walk away. You can establish a boundary. You can end a relationship that repeatedly damages your peace. You don't have to become aggressive to become strong. Calmness and strength can exist in the same person. Here's another habit you need to break. Stop replaying old conversations. You know exactly what I mean. You're taking a shower and suddenly you remember something someone said 3 months ago. Now you're arguing with them in your head. You imagine the perfect response. You imagine what you should have said. You get angry all over again. But here's the problem. The conversation ended 3 months ago. You're the one keeping it alive. That person has moved on, but you're still carrying the emotional weight. So, the next time your mind brings up an old conflict, tell yourself, it happened. I learned from it. I don't need to relive it. Then bring your attention back to the present. Your life is happening here, not 3 months ago, not tomorrow, here. And if someone genuinely wrongs you, there may be a temptation to make them feel what you felt, but revenge keeps you connected to the person who hurt you. You may think you're punishing them, but emotionally, you're still attached. Real freedom looks different. You improve, you move forward, you become stronger, you protect your boundaries, and you stop allowing the person's behavior to determine who you become. Because one of the greatest victories in life is this. Someone treated you badly, and you refused to become a bad person because of it. Someone betrayed your trust, and you still chose integrity. Someone tried to make you bitter, and you chose peace. That's strength. Eventually, something strange starts happening. You notice that the things that once triggered you don't have the same power anymore. Someone criticizes you. You listen. If there's something useful, you learn. If there's nothing useful, you let it go. Someone doesn't like you. You accept it. Someone walks away, you let them walk. Someone tries to provoke you, you don't take the bait. Not because you've stopped caring, because you've started caring about the right things. Your health, your family, your purpose, your character, your future, your peace. And suddenly, you realize something. You don't need to win every argument because you're no longer fighting for your worth. You already know your worth. So the next time somebody makes you angry, pause. Before you react, remember the driver from the beginning. That person cut you off. They continued their day. They didn't know they had the power to ruin your morning, but they only had that power because you gave it to them. Don't make that mistake anymore. You cannot control every person you meet. You cannot control every conversation. You cannot control every insult. You cannot control every disappointment. But you can control what happens inside you after it happens. And that is where your real power lives. The goal isn't to become a person who never gets angry. That's unrealistic. The goal is to become a person who doesn't allow anger to make decisions. Feel it, understand it, then choose. Because between what happens to you and what you do about it, there is a space. And inside that space is your freedom. So, tomorrow morning, when someone cuts you off, when someone criticizes you, when someone misunderstands you, when someone tries to pull you into an argument, remember this. You don't have to attend every battle you're invited to. Protect your peace, protect your attention, protect your character, and most importantly, never give another person the remote control to your mind. Because when you master your response, people don't suddenly become easier, you simply become harder to disturb, and that is when you become truly free. Not when the world finally treats you perfectly, but when you realize your peace was never supposed to depend on the world in the first place.